Welcome to another episode of Fresh Off the Set. I'm Carrie Hawker-Diaz. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today we're diving into a topic that everyone can relate to at some point in their life, dating and relationships. Our guest is Kristin Sokol. She's a relationship development coach who helps singles of all ages navigate that modern dating world that we're in with confidence, clarity, and a future-focused, solution-driven approach. So Kristin started her career actually in journalism, which uniquely shapes the way she listens, she asks questions, and coaches her clients. And over the years, she's blended her personal experiences, her research-based strategies, and practical insights to help people attract meaningful, lasting relationships, which is what we all want, right? So from online dating tips and her threefold dating strategy to overcoming the unique challenges faced by women over 30, Kristin shares advice that applies to singles at every stage of life. Whether you've been single for a while or re-entering that dating scene, this conversation is packed with actionable guidance and inspiration. Such a good listen. So let's jump in.
Hello, everyone. This is Alora Murray, and I am so excited to be with you on our Fresh Living podcast, Fresh Off the Set. I am joined today by Kristin Sokol, who is a relationship development coach. Kristin, I'm so excited to have you in the studio.
Hey there. I'm so excited to be here. This is my first time on the podcast. I've done the show several times.
I was going to say, last time I saw you, I was interviewing you on the set of our show, and then we come here, and that's why we call the podcast Fresh Off the Set, because I literally just did another show, and now I'm here
and now you're
doing this.
Really fresh off the set.
So
I totally get it.
We are so excited to have you here because every time you come, I think I end the interview with, we could talk about this forever.
I know. We need more time.
We have 3 minutes, and now we have, twice that and then some to talk about this. And this is so much fun to talk about because relationships affect us in every aspect of our life. But before we get there, you started out in journalism, which is not something I knew until today. So you started out in journalism. Talk to us about your career before getting into relationship coaching.
Yeah, you bet. Okay, so I started out my career as a newspaper reporter. So I wrote for the city journals that, you've probably seen. They show up in your mailbox. I also did some, other contributor stuff here around town. I did a lot of freelance blog stuff back in the mommy blog ages, the 2008.
I remember them vividly.
Yeah, so I had a lot of fun doing that. And, I met my husband via online dating.
Okay.
In the year 2004.
Okay.
And I realized very quickly after we met that my skills as a professional writer helped me create a profile for other people.
Yeah.
And I knew how to interview and pull out the story and do the, inverted pyramid and start with the most. Anyway, and I started getting, I got a couple of my friends married and then a couple of their friends married.
Okay.
And creating the profile to attract the type of person that you really want to meet. Not just putting out whatever I want to, but kind of reverse engineering who do I want to meet and then creating something to attract that. And my written skills were, that was before Grammarly and, certainly before AI when now I think, if you want to write something lovely, anybody can do that. But back in the day, that was a unique skill set and I had it.
Well, and I still think it is a unique skill set because if that is a skill you have, not everyone has that. We all have access to AI, but not everyone has that innate skill of writing.
Right. Yeah.
So that is something that is very unique and amazing to you. So is that kind of what inspired the shift from journalist to coach, is the success you found with your friends, or how did that happen?
Well, I was writing, covering a government beat and then, kind of moonlighting, helping people attract and find and meet and marry their partner. And that was much more exciting. So I was always looking for, more and more opportunities and kind of bragging about my success record. And more people would say, oh my gosh, you've got to work with my brother-in-law. He's such a great guy, but he's just not meeting anybody.
Yeah.
And so I would, create something for him and put him online. And then, I started taking photos too. I knew what kind of photos we needed to go with the article or the profile that we were writing. And that was just so much fun. So about 5 years in, one of my, I guess I would call them clients, I wasn't doing that at that point, ended up meeting and marrying a gal who worked for a matchmaker. And this matchmaker was running a full service firm almost with, she had photographers and matchmakers and stylists and, was bringing in experts to providing training. And so long story short, I ended up working there for 2 years.
Amazing.
Best experience of my life.
Love it.
Found out that this whole industry was there. And, you know, I went back to, like, I knew there were things that like real coaches knew that I didn't know. So I ended up doing a graduate program at the University of Texas in coaching specifically to get some coaching credentials and build my knowledge and skills there. And then I also joined a group called the Global Love Institute, which doesn't mean anything to anyone, but it's a group based in Manhattan, and it's dating coaches and matchmakers not only all over the country but around the world. And this is where we meet and collaborate and share knowledge and do continuing ed and get the latest science and research and watch the personals trends, just stay in the know. And this started in 2004, it's 2025, so this has been going for me for over 20 years, and it's evolved a ton. And I have really tried very hard to make myself like the human encyclopedia of all things dating. You know, we talk about relationship development.
Right.
So I'm not like, if you're in a relationship, that's like too late for me. Like I can't help. If you're married, I can't help with that either. But if you are like a single person and you don't want to be single anymore, I am your expert.
That is where you come in. Everything you're talking about, I feel like it should be a movie. There are movies out there, but I think you should star in your own movie of how you went from journalism to matchmaking with this, like all your credentials and all your success. I love it. So did your own personal dating and relationship experiences, did that like affect your career change at all?
Definitely. Anybody who knew me in high school, anybody who knew me in college would look at what I'm doing now and be like, really? Like I was not dating. I'm extroverted. I'm gregarious. I was everybody's buddy. Right? I was always in the friend zone. And I knew that, and I didn't want to be, and I didn't know how to break out of it either.
Right.
And so I had this, I think I said this before, this friend created my profile for me against my will. Once it was created and I was out there, I found that it was so much easier for me to be the kind of flirty that I really needed to be in person, but just couldn't. Like I have 5 older brothers. And so I was just used to palling around with
being
boys.
Buddies.
Right, and being buddies. I didn't really know like the feminine mystique or I didn't have any of those flirting skills. And it was much easier for me to be bold in writing. And I think that's why I was ultimately successful. And then once I found my person, I just had all this survivor's guilt of like, oh my gosh, I just thought I was going to be single forever. And now that I'm married to this wonderful person, which we've been married for 21 years now.
Congratulations.
I just want to help everybody who wants that be able to find it. And so that really has been my big motivation of like, let me help. I figured it out. And if I can do it, I know anybody can do it. Because I was not the one that you would have thought.
I mean, I always struggled understanding when people were flirting with me. And I definitely was not a good flirt.
Yes.
So
Same.
I can understand that. Thank heavens for my husband who would flirt and I had no idea.
And he would be like, knock, knock.
Yeah.
Guess what? I'm flirting with
Well,
you.
and that was, we always joke, he asked me out 5 times before I say yes. And he always says that it was determination, not desperation. Let's be clear.
Yes,
and
he wore you down.
so grateful for him. So grateful for him because he is a wonderful
that's
man.
such a great story.
But break it down for us. What exactly does a relationship development coach do?
Let's talk about it. So we can call it a dating coach. That's like a much more, known term.
All right. I was giving you, the
Yeah,
full.
like I really appreciate it. But sometimes that's what I like to be called. But I call myself a dating coach and a matchmaker because my Rolodex of who I know now after doing this for 20 plus years is pretty deep. And so oftentimes like I will be able to say, oh my gosh, I know who you should meet. You should meet this person and put them together. And I have a couple that is out there this summer, and I think it's going to work. So it's always very fun when that happens. But what does a dating coach do? So, I think that's different based on the dating coach, and there's different strokes for different folks. But my philosophy is sort of it's a threefold kind of thing where if I take a new client, I usually take them for about 10 sessions. So this isn't something that's indefinite or that lasts years or even a year. But over those 10 sessions, I walk them through 3 sort of phases. So the first one is getting them thinking about positive outcomes and what they would want if they could pick anything.
Okay.
Right? Like if I put a magic wand in your hand, what would you conjure up?
Right.
Right. And what I've observed over the years is that most of us, myself included, especially when we're in the dating pool and there's nothing but unknown and no real control, we only think about what we're afraid of. We only think about what we don't want. We only think about what scares us.
Okay.
And so if I can shift that for them and start helping them think about what they really want, what they notice is that what they want, like a lot of people have it, right? It seems like this enigma that is impossible, but if you like objectively look around, a lot of people are married to a nice person and they have a couple of kids and a mortgage and, they're living. I mean, that's not that unusual. Rarely do I ever have a client that comes in and says, I want to marry a really famous person and I want to be living in Dubai. Yeah. Like nobody has ever told me that. That would be a harder one to do, but usually they want to be watching their kids play soccer on Saturday. So anyway, get them thinking about the vision for the future. Right. Give them some skills. Like when we start poking around in what we want but don't have, our brain, which is wired to maintain the status quo of things, because that's what's safe or that's what's familiar, start saying, oh, don't be poking around here. Yeah. Like if you could have it, you'd have it. So just stop. You're going to embarrass yourself. You're going to get rejected. I don't know if you can recover from this. Okay. So when those are the thoughts that we're having about what is wanted, we have to get some better managerial skills. All kinds of leadership development and manager development trainings that, when you first get promoted into manager, then you're going to get some of this training, or you're going to get it in a self-help book, or, there's lots of that available. Well, there is for self-talk too, right?
Exactly.
So I try to give them the skills that they need to be a bit more objective instead of just believing the scary thoughts that pop up in their head, to kind of evaluate them. Yeah. Right. And so anyway, that's sort of the first phase, is thinking about the future, honing in on your better thought management skills.
Believing you can have the future you actually want.
Yeah. Believing that it exists is such a big deal. It's so much easier to hit a target if you have one there to hit, and you know where it's at. Yeah. Right? Otherwise, we're just running around holding these darts and we're disappointed we have nowhere to throw them.
Right.
So that's phase one. Phase two, this is more like consulting. Like this phase is a little bit more consulty than coachy. I have spent 20 years learning from the experts, reading all the books, hearing all the thought masters and the thought leaders, and have put together a curriculum of, I think, knowledge, like personal relationship development knowledge that is kind of been deleted from our learning resources. Like we are not taught flirting skills in high school or college or church, right? We are not taught, how to plan a date and how to have a strategic conversation on a date so that we can really share who we are and really be inquisitive or curious about who we're with. Those skills are like soft skills that are hard to find sources for. And I've spent 20 years finding the best ones. Just like understanding if you were to go to college, the first thing you do is meet with an academic advisor and you plan this whole thing out, right? So semester by semester what you're going to be working on.
Right.
And actually the same thing is true for onboarding yourself into a new relationship. There is definitely a path that we follow with distinct phases, and each one of those phases has tasks, specific things that we do in those phases. But if we don't have that sort of understanding that, okay, this is going to follow a pattern, we tend to be kind of ski-wampus and we jump around and we might spook ourselves or spook the person that we're dating, or spend too much time in one phase or too little. There's a lot of errors that you can make if you don't understand the plan. So I share with them that best knowledge and insight. And then one of my mentors has been running a long-standing study since the late 80s, following nearly 400 couples who all got married in the late 80s, and has followed them for the entire duration of their marriage. And there's all kinds of science-based, research-backed insights about what keeps couples together over time, right? And, these are married couples, but, what does that have to do with people who are dating? Well, how do we select a partner who is going to be as compatible as we hope they are over the long term?
Right.
Right. And there's some pretty interesting tells that if you incorporate that kind of learning, I'm here to date this person because I need to find out these things. Right? There's a handful of things that I need to know.
Interesting.
And it changes the way you date, right? Instead of just, sitting down over dinner and saying, so how was your day? What'd you do? What was,
Well, and I mean, you talking about this, I can think of, many bad dates that I went on. I remember, I think we've all been in that boat, no matter who you are, no matter who you've dated, you have bad date stories. And I think of some of those stories and I'm like, there were definitely things that they said that spooked me. Or sometimes I remember thinking, do you care to listen to anything I have to say.
Right. You know, so that middle phase is that sort of educational piece.
Yeah.
And then the third phase is all about the technique and making sure you have the assets like the photos. If you're trying to attract a particular type of person, you got to have the photos that are going to bring them in. We live in a very visual society, and especially with social media, like a picture is worth 1,000 words is way more relevant now than it used to be when that phrase came out. But, you know, I'm a writer, my background's in writing. It also matters the kind of, like, if you're using a dating app, you know, it has you pick prompts, like from a list, you pick the thing you should know about me is X. And most people will say the thing you know about me is I like the jazz. And that's nice, but it lacks a little bit of detail. It lacks.
It's like, why do you like the Jazz? Do you love basketball? Are you from Utah? Where are you from?
So if you say, I like the Jazz and I have season tickets with my brother and I've gone since I was 9, who do you follow, right? You're much more likely to give your reader on the other end of this, like an understanding of who you are. And they'll be able to say, oh my gosh, I have had season tickets too. Or I've always wanted to have season tickets. Or, oh, I have a brother that I go to all these games with too. Like, maybe we have some things in common. So I'm going to say, yeah, you know, I grew up in San Francisco and so I follow the Golden State Warriors and, you know, we're going to blah, blah, blah. Now we're having a conversation, right? Where it's much easier and more likely to get something off the ground if we understand the techniques that are going to make our content elicit conversation.
Amazing. And I mean, while we're talking about content, so we went through the phases. While we're talking about content, you've worked with singles across the country. We have social media now. We have even more dating apps now.
Yeah.
We have reality dating shows galore. What are some of the biggest challenges or misconceptions you now see that people are facing in the dating world today?
Oh, that's a really good question. You know, there's probably 17 things that are misnomers, right? Or that are tripping people up. So if I can name just a couple of them, anxiety, social anxiety. Like there has been a real, so we got smartphones in about 2007.
I literally remember it was 2007 and my dad had one and I remember holding it in my hand and like seeing the bubbles pop in as text messages was just like, it was shocking to me.
Right.
I was like, this is amazing.
You're super engaged with it. It's popping all the time. And there's so many things that you can look up and there's so much entertainment and involvement that we have with our phones that I'm going to pull my phone up and stare at it instead of staring at you.
Yeah,
right?
It's like a safety net.
It's a safety net. And if I'm feeling 5% awkward, that's the first thing I'm going to do is pull out my phone and look at it and look busy.
Yeah.
And if I'm looking at my phone, are you going to come talk to me?
It's very difficult.
No.
If I don't know you, I'm not going to interrupt someone who clearly doesn't want to be talked to.
So I went to college in like the late 90s, early 2000s. And I remember being at sitting in this study lab and I kept looking up and there was this guy like across the room and he would like look at me like periodically. Like he looked at me 4 or 5 times and smiled. And I just think that, and we ended up going on a date, didn't go anywhere, but you know, we met.
I was like, was it your husband?
But like we met because neither of us had phones to distract us. You know, we didn't have our AirPods in. Now, if you go to college, people are staring at their laptops and got AirPods in their ears. And so you can't approach them. So we're much less approachable. So less experience. So we feel more anxious about personal interaction because we are far less experienced at it than previous generations. So that is like probably, I would say, number 1.
Yeah.
Number 2, you know, you mentioned before, like all these reality shows and all these, like there's so many impossible standards. I think people are very confused about what really matters in long-term relationships, right? They think I've got to have instant chemistry. I've got to have a spark of attraction before I could even approach this person. Right? So like maybe there's a person we have a lot in common, but like he's not doing it for me or she's not, you know, doing it for me. And so like I'll just stay here and keep my arms folded and keep looking at my phone. But what you don't know is anything about this person, how much you might have in common or her best friend. Might be a little better looking, right? Might be a little more your type or your speed, but you won't ever meet her because you won't engage with the original person in the first place. So like there's a lot of like loose ties, opportunities that we don't seize because we think everything has to line up first and there must be this instant chemistry before I can take the first step towards it, right? And it's the opportunity cost of living your life that way is high. And you can keep doing it, but it's going to take you a long time to find your person.
Yeah.
So I don't know, does that answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. Well, I think about some of my favorite reality dating shows because I still watch them and I've gotten to the age now where I'm way older than all of them and I feel so wise even though I got married in 2022. It's my second marriage, and I got married in 2022. And I watch these shows now, and it's so interesting to me because they meet someone, and if they don't hit it off within maybe, I'm talking seconds, they have no time to even ask them any more questions.
No, because they've already decided.
And it's twofold. It's like, that's just the kind of world we live in with social media. It's like instant gratification.
Yeah.
And two, obviously they are shows and they're a little bit skewed because there's usually a winner and a loser in some of these dating shows. You win money, you win a date, you win something. So if it doesn't happen, like I said, within seconds, people are like, well, I'm done. It's the same thing. I have so many friends that are on dating apps, and it's just that swiping. It's just swiping.
Yeah, there's a paradox of choice, right? And it feels like this one's fine. Maybe there will be a better one next, right? Yeah. Living your life like that is a high opportunity cost because a lot of my clients are in their upper 40s or 50s and have been doing this for decades, and they still haven't selected. Right? They still haven't picked the one. And now there's just that the ship has sailed for like the things that they really wanted to build because of that, paradox of choice.
And I want to talk more about, you're not telling people to settle. You're just telling people to take chances.
Let's talk about what's important, right? Yeah. And not only take chances. I wouldn't say that because that sounds risky, but I would say invest in opportunities.
Okay.
Right? Like
relationship development coach.
Yes. Yes. Invest in opportunities and allow yourself to be curious. Like, if there's somebody that's in your orbit that seems somewhat interested in you, or you can tell they're interested in you, but you're not sure how you feel or you think you're not interested in them, it still behooves you to sit down with them, spend some one-on-one time together, like build connections and be curious about what's there, because we can always have a conversation of like, gosh, we have a lot in common. I'm not sure I'm feeling romantic sparks, but I would really love to take you to the football game. I have some friends that are going. Do you want to come with us? Right? And we can transition this to friends, and you might introduce that person to the person that they're meant to be with, and vice versa. But none of that can happen if we make a judgment, make the assessment that this is not for me, and so I won't pursue it. There's a lot of opportunity behind those, like, I don't know what to call them. I feel like I want to call them paywalls, but I don't know if that's the right phrase or not. But there's a lot of hidden opportunities that we're not seizing.
Been talking about online dating. The fact of the matter is that is how so many people are dating these days. You can't really get away from it. I mean, that's not how I met my husband, but I was on online dating for a while. What tips do you give people to navigate dating apps effectively and safely?
So many things. Yeah, I could talk about this for an hour and a half, but I'll give it a couple minutes for you. So I would say the thing that really matters is managing your emotional investment, right? And using that wisely.
So what does that mean?
So you have a finite amount of bandwidth in the day to spend on everything. And so online dating, if you're a single person and you're invested, you have this profile, you're hoping to meet somebody that way, it matters who you message, for how long you message, and why you're messaging them, and what's happening in the messages. Like, I have clients who will sometimes be involved in these text relationships that have gone on for days and weeks and sometimes longer. Why? If the person on the other end was in the place where you wanted them to be, like, you would have met in about a week. So that's would be my best practice, is for us to engage, send some messages. I actually posted a really helpful thing on my Instagram, just Kristin Sokol on Instagram. I posted this infographic about how to vet a dating app match, right? And we're going to follow this step where I think it's like, we're going to meet and message, we're going to match and message, then we're curious, right? If our interest is piqued, then we're going to escalate that communication. So it's all about progression, right? So we're going to escalate that communication by sending a voice memo, right? Or sending like a Marco Polo.
So actually trying to get out of the app,
get out
into
of texting,
the real world.
Get into a place where you can gather more context, right?
Okay.
And so you're like, when we're reading text messages and sending them, we think we're being cute and clever, but we really don't understand how they're interpreting what we've said, right? And you're interpreting what they've shared, but you are applying your own conclusion about what what they meant or what the tone was based on your map of the world. They may not be aligned at all. So if we can start using more contextual resources like your voice or like little video snips back and forth, then we can gauge a lot more how accurate our assumptions were, right? So that will give you more context. If you're still interested, let's have a phone call, right? So we live in an age where there's a lot of romance scams. There's a lot of things to be wary of.
Oh, we talk about them on the show a lot. I mean, it was last year, I think some woman, I think it was in France, she was convinced that Brad Pitt was in love with her.
Oh, this happens all the time.
And he was asking her to send him money because he was in the hospital.
Yeah.
And I don't remember the story well enough, but someone stepped in and was like, Brad Pitt is not in the hospital, nor does he need your money.
Yep. There was I have a podcast called Barbie Does Dating that I do with a friend of mine. Her name's Barbie, single gal. And we actually did an episode about romance scams. And I think there was one locally where this, aged gentleman believed he was interacting with Marie Osmond for a long time.
No.
And, these things happen. However, most people, if you poll everybody in your room who's over 30 and ask where they met their person, 7 out of 10 of them are going to say they met online, right? So even though there's a lot to be wary of, it's still your best bet. It's still like the best resource for you as far as connection. So we can avoid all of that security risk by following a proper vetting procedure, right? So if you message and they're willing to progress to give you a little more context with the voice memos. And then the next thing is to get on the phone and have a real-time discussion. And we can do a video chat is even better than a phone chat. And, my safety mechanism here, and I think it does matter, is that we're going to use a Google Voice number, right? We're going to use a burner phone. We're going to use some way where we, if we're going to set up a Zoom meeting, we're going to make up another email address and have them send it to an email address that doesn't really contain your name. We like where this is going, but we still want to be cautious because as of yet, this person is unmet and untested. So once we know that and we assess the vibe and the chemistry and the connection potential and we feel good about it, then we set up a date in a public place, right? And
absolutely.
My rule is that a first date should last 1 hour, no longer. Ask me if it's going really well. What should I do then? Ask me that question.
If it's going really well, what do you do?
Can you extend it? No. And be so frank about that.
I love it.
You want to leave on a high note.
Yeah.
You want to leave with both of you wanting a little more. So plan a second date and then that one can last as long as you want it to. But a first date should last an hour, tops 90 minutes, right? So I would say 45 minutes to 90 minutes. That is it. That's the max. Shorter than that, I don't think you're giving it enough of a chance.
Yeah.
Longer than that, especially when it's going well, this is the tale as old as time. I went on this date and we closed the restaurant down. We talked for 4 hours until they kicked us out. And then I never heard from her again, right? Or then I never heard from him again. And what is happening there, if I can, I'm not an expert or a mind reader, but what happens is we ended up spending so much time together that even if they want to see you again, they think, I don't have another 4 hours.
Oh, interesting.
And if I only go on a 2-hour date, is that going to be disappointing? And they get into this place where they don't know how to proceed. And so they avoid it.
Yeah.
Right? If we don't know how to do something, we tend to avoid it. So we can save ourselves all that grief by keeping it short and agreeing to a second date that can last longer.
I love that. And it's also, too, I went on dates that, bless their hearts, they were trying to, they were making it so big that I almost felt uncomfortable.
Well, it's way too much pressure.
And I'm like, I know you've done all this stuff, but what if I don't want to?
I don't want to see you again, and you've spent $450 on this experience for us.
And I'm like,
you feel obligated, but you're not.
Yeah. Oh no, and that is so important for everyone to hear.
Yeah, these are choices that people make, and if they have it to give, they'll do it. If they don't, they won't. You're not obligated just because somebody made that choice. You didn't make it.
Yeah, and I love that you're saying that. It is always your choice when it comes down to dating.
Right.
So I mean, we've talked about how you got into this career, what you do. Let's talk about really quick before we wrap up. I want to hear, and I know everyone listening does too, a story of a client whose life or dating experience has changed significantly after working with you.
So many.
We love to hear that. So many.
Okay, well, let me just humble brag for a minute, right? We are in September. I've had 10 client engagements or weddings this year. I had 16 last year. And let me tell you about this cute couple. Actually, the difference between coaching and matchmaking is I'm going to give you the knowledge and the skills you need to be your own matchmaker and to empower people who know you already to to help you, right?
Yeah.
They'll become your best matchmaker. And there are ways that you can empower them to do that. That's what I focus on. Traditional matchmaking is more like headhunting, right? Where you say, I'm only interested in dating this very particular market segment, and I don't have the time to search and find, because they're hard to find.
Yes. I remember watching a Frasier episode about this.
Yeah. So that's what they will find it. They will headhunt it. They will shake all the trees. They will vet this person for you. They'll background check them. And it's like costs $10,000 a month or $60,000 a month, $150,000 for 3 months. Like it's very expensive.
Okay.
So I also do matchmaking, but mine is more like from my own Rolodex. Like I'm not researching, I'm not headhunting. I just think that she would like to meet him. So I have 2 clients that I have been working with in this last year. And, she was shy and had some conclusions about herself and her worth and where she fit and what was what steps she could take, what she could wear, and all of those misconceptions were holding her back, and people just in her life didn't even know she was there. Right. So
that breaks my heart.
I know it. And this is a very typical client story for me. So I took her through some of this education and gave her some of this knowledge that is missing in a lot of the places where we're looking for knowledge. We also took a trip to like TJ Maxx, and I said, let me show you what I would pick out for you. First of all, I would pick out pants that were 2 sizes smaller than what you're wearing, because all your pants are baggy and you have a banging figure and nobody can see it. So let me show you what I would pick out. And instead of wearing all neutrals, black sweaters, beige sweaters, what if you put on this hot pink sweater? And we ended up getting her a pair of pants that had this really cute embroidery pattern on them. Mm-hmm. And when I picked them out, she was like, I could never wear them. Yeah. I could never. And she has probably texted me 3 or 4 times in the last 6 months that some stranger has remarked on her pants and then asked her out, like right then and there. She had never in her whole life been asked on a date. Ever.
So she was just basically feeling invisible.
She was invisible.
And trying to be that.
Yes. Well, and she just thought that's what she was supposed to do.
Oh, bless her heart.
So we made some subtle shifts. Like she didn't want to wear, and she didn't buy everything I wanted her to wear, but she bought things that were in her comfort zone.
That were still her.
We're still her, but we're just outside what she would have picked for herself. Like it was a stretch, but it was still comfortable for her. And everything changed. So this guy that I fixed her up with, had been chasing the wrong person for a while and had wasted a lot of time and effort there and had some, misconceptions, a lack of knowledge about what healthy relationships look like, what you should get from a partner, what you should give. And just hearing the knowledge and hearing the plan and hearing the strategy was all he needed. He just didn't need that much. And then, they were both out dating and having experiences, some good, some heartbreaking ones too. But
that's the world of dating.
It's still experience.
Yeah.
Right? Having heartbreaking experience, in my mind, is better than having no experience.
Well, it's like the old saying, it's better to have loved and lost than to not have loved
because you learn you gain something. Like, have you ever struggled with a college class that was really hard? And maybe you failed it, and then you took it again the next semester and got an A. Sometimes we need those stumbles to learn the thing that we couldn't have learned any other way, right? And I think that was the case here. So anyway, I ended up fixing the 2 of them up, and they have been dating all summer. And every couple of months, every month, they'll send me a photo of them together looking like they could power the whole universe with their energy and their love.
Oh, I love that.
It's been so fun. And I have a lot of stories.
Oh, I'm sure we could have a whole other podcast on your success stories.
I have, so I'm actually, this is interesting. Speaking of reality shows, I'm actually involved with one. And I can't say anything about it because I've signed an NDA. But anyway, I was reaching out to some of my former clients for resources. And I reached out to one who got married maybe 2 years ago. And she was in her mid-30s. She just had a baby. I said, hey, how are you? How's life? How's that baby? And she responded and said, my baby is my drug. It's the best thing that has ever happened. I'm so obsessed with this baby, and we all love her, and they're kind of a blended family situation. And she's anyway, she's just been so, her life is just shifted, altered forever in the best way she never thought. She thought that ship had sailed, and it hasn't. And that's the thing, is that I had 2 clients, this was last year, to be fair. This was last calendar year. I had 2 clients who were 65 years old and both found love and got married within the year. One of them had never had a boyfriend before, never held anybody's hand, never had a kiss. First kiss, 65.
Oh my word.
So if you think it's too late for you and that ship has sailed, it hasn't. There honestly, truly is a lid for every pot out there. There is somebody that is just so, in this case of this woman, this guy had been widowed twice and he had kids and grandkids that really wanted a grandmother. Both of his wives had died from cancer, right? So now he's married again and she has an instant set of grandkids and kids and a husband. And it's just like, it's the best thing ever.
I love that.
There's just so, we could go on all day and I could tell you about my clients.
I was like, we'll have to do another podcast. I feel like all of those stories, and it's not too late, is the best way to wrap up this interview. But before we totally finish, we do something called the Fresh Five, where I ask you a random 5 questions so we get to know you as a person. And they're kind of random. They're fun. It's just like, so we've talked about, your career. Now we're just going to talk to Kristin.
I always have an opinion. So.
We love it. And these are pretty easy questions. And I mean, I say that, and then sometimes easy questions, people are like, that's the hardest thing anyone's ever asked me.
Yeah, it's so true.
In my life. All right. Number 1, if you were to choose a color that described you, what color would it be?
I think like a canary yellow.
Oh, that's very specific. Number 2, if you could have breakfast or dinner for every single meal, which one would you choose?
Dinner.
Breakfast or dinner? Number 3, if you could have it, which would you prefer, sunshine or rain?
I like the variety, but if I could only pick one, I'd pick sunshine.
So this one, not what is your favorite, but which book would you want to live in? So not your favorite book, but which book would you like to live in?
So there's a few books that come to mind. So there's a book called Paths of Glory. It's by Jeffrey Archer, and it's about George Mallory. It's like a historical fiction. Like there is some historical accuracy to it, but they take liberties. So George Mallory may or may not have been the first person to summit Mount Everest, and we don't know because he's still frozen up there. He didn't make it back down. Anyway, so this book, Paths of Glory, is all about his life and his time in the mountains all over the world. And it's like a love triangle between he and his wife, who is the love of his life, and the mountain. So he was always like leaving the love of his life to do this mountain passion that he couldn't not do. And anyway, it's a book where you laugh and you cry, and he, goes, attends Oxford. There's all these places in the UK. Anyway, it just sounds dreamy. And who wouldn't love to see the Matterhorn, right? To be on the Matterhorn. Who wouldn't love to be at the foothills of the Himalayas? Like, I'm not going to the top. I just don't have it in me. Kind of be there and watch him, like, okay, say goodbye, George, and then welcome him back when he comes down. Like, I would love that.
Wow, that is a great response. Love that. I've never heard of that book, but now I have to read it.
So good. Yes, you do.
Okay, and number 5, this is the last one. One of my favorite things to ask people. Really quick, what is your favorite quote?
Do you know what really came to my mind? I think I've already said it once. Different strokes for different folks.
Because it's true.
There's just, we don't all have to want the same thing. We don't all have to think the same things are the right, best way, only way to do things, right? There are all kinds of ways that we can get through this life. And if we can allow other people to choose their path and their favorite things, and they will give us the same, we will all have a lot more harmony.
I love that. Well, Kristin, thank you so much for being with us today. We've loved chatting with you.
So fun.
We have so many more things to talk about. And to everyone listening, thank you so much. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe, and we will catch you next time.
Congrats, you made it to the end. If you want to continue to freshen up your day, you can watch us on Fresh Living every weekday on CBS Channel 2 in Utah at 1 o'clock. You can also watch us on our YouTube channel, KUTV Fresh Living, and follow us on social media. We will see you next week.